Hi, this is Christy from Life Struggles, and we have Melinda back.
Me? I
Yeah,
am back.
who are you?
I know. I've been MIA.
You can't do that to us.
I know. You want to talk about life struggles? I've been riding the struggle bus for like the last 2 weeks.
Well, get off that bus.
I know. I'm hoping that I have permanently departed at least through Christmas, but we'll see. Oh my gosh. Yes, I am back.
Okay, so what's been going on?
Oh my gosh, what hasn't been going on? Well, I mean, my husband was out of state practically back to back for the last 2 weeks for a business trip. So I had full reign of my minions here. And it's been the first
He's not
time.
allowed to do that. You just have to tell him. When we have a podcast,
I
you have to
know.
stay home.
I know, which means he just needs to stay home all the time.
Right.
But yeah, it was like my first time fully taking care of the kids on my own since the pandemic began.
Uh-huh.
And with my panic attacks, it was very trying and emotionally and physically exhausting just trying to get myself through, but I did
Hey,
good.
girl.
And
Okay, girl. But what did I tell you and you didn't do?
I know to call you if I needed you. I know.
What if you hurt my feelings?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I was more like trying to, I just don't ever want to inconvenience people, and I know I wouldn't, but I'm also like, man, I got to be able to do this. So here I am, like in the corner, just like,
Okay, so
got
that's
this.
it. I'm getting you the book, first of all, that says Girl, Don't Apologize. That's the name of it.
Okay.
You really need to read it. It's all about always saying, I don't want to hurt people. I don't want people to be inconvenient. I don't.
Yeah. That's me all over.
That
Like I
is
said,
you.
it's a struggle bus. Maybe I'm still on it, just all like maybe 1 foot on, 1 foot off. But I did good, and then decided, now that the husband's back, now I'm gonna get sick.
So that
So
doesn't even make sense. How do you feel about that?
he was just like, "Are you okay?" He thought it was him. He thought coming
What?
back made me physically ill. I'm like, "Yes, you just need to leave again." No, I don't know. I had the pukes,
So,
and I was
so where did
yeah.
you stay?
I was just I bunked out in the bedroom.
With
I
him?
mean, well, yeah. I mean, by
And
the
he
time
didn't
I
get
fell
the
asleep,
stomach flu?
yeah, no. By the time I fell asleep, I got sick a few times, and then
Oh
by
my
the time
gosh.
I know,
There's no way if we had the stomach flu in the house, it'd be everybody.
yeah, and maybe, and that's why I'm wondering if maybe it just wasn't stomach flu. Maybe like I ate something that I don't know. All
You
I
know what
know
I
is
think it
it's
was?
miserable.
Just
Yes.
my unbiased opinion. Um, I think that you were probably a bundle of nerves while he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And once he was home, because that's how our body reacts.
Mm-hmm.
So you were trying to hold everything together while he was gone with the wind, the
Yeah.
storms, everything.
Oh man. Yeah.
And then he got home and then your body reacts.
Yeah. It was just like, and you're not stressed anymore, but
Because you
it's
knew
literally
your,
what happened.
your body knew you couldn't puke while he was gone and
Oh
take care
yeah,
of kids.
there's just no option. We had sports, we had volleyball, we had everything. So
Right. And that's what
yeah,
I'm saying. Like there's,
yeah,
I kind of think it was like a after effect.
yeah. But I got like a really good night's sleep that night. Then I slept really good last night. I felt fantastic today. Well, I even got to come in and see you and spend some time with you, so that worked.
That was nice. And I
Yeah.
love my cup. I wish it had coffee in it right now.
Uh,
Not
if I do,
coffee.
yeah,
Not
hot
coffee.
chocolate.
You know what? I had somebody else on. So on my, you don't ever get to Instagram to watch my stories. And I do tag you.
Every now and then I do.
I do tag you though,
Yeah.
usually. But in this one, I advertise for Starbucks.
Oh yeah.
And that's a paid advertisement. And and I did a pink drink. Okay.
I love peak drink.
I love them too, but I
Good.
have my own recipe I have them use.
Uh-huh.
So like it's made with almond milk and sliced strawberries, and I have them switch the almond milk out to oat milk because
Oh
that
yeah.
has less calories, and I actually think it tastes better.
Uh-huh.
and it's still not dairy, so that's fine. And then I have them add extra strawberries.
Mhm.
And Ryan asked me why once, because he's like, do you even eat them? I'm like, heck yes. When I get done drinking all the
Yeah.
stuff, I get my spoon and I get down at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good
But
stuff.
plus the extra strawberries gives it, you know, a little bit more flavor. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So then, you know, it's got Aussie berry or Aki berry, however you want to
Uh-huh.
pronounce it in
Yeah.
it. Depends on who you ask. It's
Like
either
I've heard acai or
and
acai or
Akia
yeah.
and Aussie. So actually, when I looked it up, it was pronounced ASH and then those apostrophe things EE. So that's like
Oh,
Aussie.
yeah.
But some of the employees at Starbucks say Akaya, some say Aki.
Acai. Yeah, I've heard him say
And
acai. I'm just like, whatever's in that pink drink.
yeah,
That's what I
well,
want.
so anyway, at night when I get a cravings for Starbucks, I have one of those because I don't need the caffeine.
Mhm.
Even when I get my iced coffee, my mocha, I only get a quarter of a shot. So I don't
Oh,
have
there you
very
go.
much caffeine
Mhm.
because it wouldn't like just keep me up all night if I took it
Bouncing
early
off
in the
the
morning.
walls.
I've got a very, very low intolerance. But anyway, so I did a story saying, you know, so this is what I have. And actually I think I was talking to the girl at the thing and when I was paying for it. And
Mhm.
she said, did you want sweet foam on that? And I said, of course. And then a little bit of drizzle of
Yes.
caramel.
Mhm.
And she's like, that's right. She said, when I saw you, I thought right away, I bet he didn't put that down because I know that you always get that, which that's pretty bad when they know what you want.
I'm the same way. I'm there a lot. They're like, hey, Melinda. I'm like,
I know.
hi.
Oh, well, but anyway, so I told that in my story and somebody DM'd me and said, oh, by the way, just so you know, that does have caffeine in it. In fact,
It does. Yeah.
they said it has more caffeine than coffee,
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
but it's not true.
Well, I had heard that there is, because when I had to go off of caffeine for my panic attacks, that was one of the drinks that was recommended where they said there is some caffeine in it, but it's lower on the lower
It's
end.
on the lower end because
Yeah.
it's in the leaf. And then
Mhm.
when they make it into liquid, it loses that part. So
Oh
they
yeah.
have to put that there's a low amount. It
Mhm.
has never in any way affected me whatsoever.
Mhm.
However, they did tell me that I can get the decaf tea
Oh, there you
because it's
go.
actually like a tea.
Yeah, that'll work. And then
Yeah.
on their app, if you go to their menu and you can actually look up the nutritional information, which is what I learned when I was going through the whole new part
Mhm,
of this. And
mhm.
it'll tell you how many milligrams of caffeine is in each one, provided you don't, add anything else to it and
Right,
whatnot.
right. So, hey,
I
what?
finally got my drink too this morning. They
Yeah,
had been
what'd you
out of my
get?
coffee. I always get the blonde an iced blonde vanilla latte, and then I put the sweet cold foam on top and get some caramel drizzle. It's so good. I got my
I think
sister
that
hooked
makes a
on
big
it.
difference.
It does. The sweet cold foam is really good because it's like a sweet vanilla cold foam.
Yep.
But they had been out of the blonde roast for a really long time, and I don't do anything more than the blonde roast. It gets just too potent for me, and I was super
I've
excited
never
to
even
get my
heard
drink.
that. That's at Starbucks?
Yeah. Oh, it's so
Blonde
good.
roast?
Blonde roast. Yeah, I'll screenshot my drink and send it to you. It's so good.
Huh.
So good.
But
And but I don't get it often.
do you
Not too often.
do you get a full shot?
Oh, whatever. I guess whatever it is that's in there. I never paid attention, but I just put in the drink and then add the cold foam and add the caramel. So I'm sure there. But yeah, you can adjust that right there on the app too if you ever order ahead.
Hmm.
Because I just don't do their drive-through. I order ahead and then do my running and then go get it when it's ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, what are we going to talk about tonight?
We're going to talk about the princess switch.
Okay.
Yes.
That's about those two girls that maybe way down the road could be related, right?
Yeah, they talked about it. They kind of touched on it in the beginning part of the movie and then kind of again at the end, but you never really fully know
I
if
don't
they're
think they
related.
know, do they? They just are kind of
No, they're
thinking.
just not sure. Yeah, so it's a Princess Switch, which you can find on Netflix. I think it's a movie by Netflix, I think. Um,
It must be because when I was looking it up, the other two came up afterwards.
yeah, they actually, just released the third one this year. And it is one of the very few movies that I've seen so far where the second and third one actually are just as good as the first. I like all three of them.
But you know what I want to know?
Hmm.
Are, are is it like a sequence? Or are they
Um,
different movies?
well, no, I mean that it's all the same people, which you don't see often with your second, and definitely not with your thirds. But I mean, like the first one has its own, situation thing going on, and then the second one has a new thing. And I mean, it does continue on, like after the main characters get married, and then they go on to the next, and then the third one is just a crazy one, but it's you get introduced to a third character in there that Vanessa Hudgens plays, and it ties in nicely. It's not like oddball here and different thing there, and it ties in nicely.
But they're all the same characters.
Yeah, so Vanessa Hudgens plays Stacy and Princess Margaret, so she's playing a double role in this movie, and she does
Wouldn't
that
that be
in this.
cool to watch behind the scenes to see how they do that?
Oh, I know, absolutely. Now, in the first movie, you can tell that they use like a different actress, like a stand-in when they're doing the back and forth between the two. But sometimes you have them together in the same frame, and it's obviously her. But for the most part, she plays the same, the two same people. And then in the third one, she plays three. She's got three roles that she plays because then a cousin comes in,
Oh no, and
and
then she looks like them too.
yeah, except for like she's got like the long blonde hair. She's wild and crazy, and but
That's
it's
nuts.
yeah. Oh, it's insane. So what I guess we should let
Okay,
people
so
know is
let's go ahead and talk about that first movie then.
yeah, so it's directed by Mike Rohl, Rohl. I hope I'm pronouncing that
Roll.
right.
Yeah.
Yep. And then of course, like I said before, Vanessa Hudgens plays Stacy and the Duchess Margaret. I think I said Princess Margaret, but she's not quite princess. It's the Duchess Margaret. Sam Palladio plays Prince Edward, and Nick Sagar plays Kevin. And those are your three main characters. Kevin's does have a daughter in the movie. Her name's Olivia, and she plays a decent part, in there. But your three mains are the um, Vanessa Hudgens characters, and then the two guys there.
And then I got Lady Margaret out of it.
Yes, Lady Margaret. That's yeah. So it's like the Duchess and Lady Margaret. They call her a couple different Lady Duchess.
I know.
Yeah,
I wonder.
I don't know how
So
that all
she's a
works with the
duchess on
royalty.
her own side of the family. I
Yes.
thought there was a difference between the lady and the duchess, but I
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I know me either. Go
I
ahead.
wonder
I'm
if it's
gonna look
kind of
it up.
like Ms., Mrs., and Miss in our society. But so Margaret and Prince Edward have an arranged marriage. And the whole premise of this movie is she's wanting to have just a taste of what normal life would be. And it just so happens that Stacy, who owns her own bakery there in Chicago, her friend Kevin signs her up, to, enters her to be in this baking competition that's in Belgravia. I don't think that's a real place, but so
Um,
she gets accepted and they go. And that's where they run into her Stacy and the Duchess run into each other and realize that they are identical. And then the story just kind of goes from there.
okay, hold on.
Like I
Okay,
looked up where
so
it was
I
filmed and
just
I can't
I just
remember.
I just looked up what's the difference between a lady and a duchess.
Oh, okay.
And it says duchess is the feminization of duke. Duke
Okay.
and duchesses are usually referred to as your grace rather than my lord or my lady,
Okay.
which is said to
That's
their
good to know.
royal peers, insider reports.
Okay, so maybe she's like the duchess to your everyday commoner people, and
then just my
they call
lady to
lady.
like the staff and all that.
Yeah, okay, I can see that makes sense.
Okay. So, I think we should leave a little bit more to their imagination. Like
Yes.
sometimes we tell too much and then they might as well not watch it, except that we're not good actresses.
Yeah, and when we get way into it at times.
I know.
Yeah.
Last night when my husband and I went to dinner for my break, he called me up and he said, "Can you take a break just to go eat?" So I'm like,
You're
"Sure."
like, no.
I know. Well,
You're
first,
so
I
busy.
did say no. I did say no at first. And then he's like, "Well, you need to eat." And I said, "Believe me, I eat while I'm here. It's not the best stuff for me, but I do eat."
Like I said earlier, girl, it's the holidays. You might as well just enjoy it while you can. Because before you know it, all that good food's gonna be gone, and then
Okay,
we're
but
gonna be stuck in January.
I don't have the cookies here. I don't have cookies here. And I don't have M&Ms here.
M&Ms,
no.
you say?
Oh, I hate you. I don't have any chocolate here.
I'll eat one for you and one for me.
Oh, that's so mean.
I know, but hey, I'll eat them for you. So that you don't have to worry about eating the bad stuff.
Okay,
I am never without M&Ms. It's
I
bad.
want you to help me when Christmas is over, like the day after I'm giving up sugar.
Okay.
And that's
going to you should do it gradually, because you're going to crash if you just give it all up.
Well, one of my friends on Instagram gave it up a week ago. And well, 6 days ago, so almost a week. And she didn't do a crash, but she like would get on Instagram and say, "Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this."
It's hard.
And
really
she gave up Diet Coke at the same time.
Oh man, she's going all in.
I know.
I'd be a bear if I had to give up like my coffee and my chocolate all at
thankfully,
once.
she's by herself right now. So, I mean, her husband's in a, he's got Parkinson's, and so he's in a, I don't know,
like an assisted living kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Because her mom has brain cancer and her dad's got dementia, and they both were diagnosed the same day. And and her dad was so bad they had to put him in assisted living. And mom, her brain cancer is incurable. But they're trying, to do things to give her more time. And so she like was going
a lot on her plate.
A lot.
Yeah.
So and they're like 3 hours apart in a drive. And so she's been like during the aggressive part of it, she was just staying with her mom. And then that's when she put her husband into assisted living, so he was taken care of.
Yeah.
Even though she had some family that was in town, where they lived, she has like 7 kids, and her husband's a doctor. The other one, her cousin, that could have, but she couldn't be there full time. And he refuses to have somebody strange come stay with him in the house.
I mean, I can see.
Yeah,
it makes you nervous.
And she could too. So I felt so bad for her because she had nobody else. Her son's away at college. He's a junior in college. And so she had to like, first of all, absorb this news that she was losing both her mom and her dad at the same time, and possibly her husband.
Oh, I don't know how she's handling herself. I would be like,
and she's
a mess.
An alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic of 15 years. So, there's still, even though it's been 15 years, something like that can start you back up. That can
trigger. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, she did say, "Please, everybody pray for me that, I know I'm going to get through this, but I still need the prayers because I'm going nuts." So anyway, I don't know how I got off on that, but.
Well, that's what we do. what we do. Okay, so what I noticed, what I liked about the characters that Vanessa Hudgens played, though, is that they're polar opposites. So Stacy's character is very type A, by the book, has to have everything planned out, and the Duchess just kind of wants to go with the flow life, which she doesn't have, being in a royal family or being royalty. She just, she has to play things by the book too. So, they do a swap. So we won't go into like super specifics on how that swap happens, but they see each other behind the scenes at that baking competition. She's like, let's meet up later. And they does the proposition where she offers her, the chance to do the switch, and Stacy comes back with her like, well, if I do this, what about this? And then they agree and they do the switch.
But that I think we should tell this part though, because the main reason why Stacy even agreed to it was for her, was it her niece?
No, it's her friend Kevin, his daughter Olivia.
So they're just friends. They're
just friends. I think they're
okay,
like
but it was anyway.
Friends.
So
yeah.
Olivia had wanted to be in ballet.
Yes.
So it was an exchange for her going to ballet school. If I remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a program there in the Belgravia, but it's of course super
because that's
expensive.
the only reason she agreed to do that.
Yeah, and that kind of gives you a little bit of an insight to her character and just how close knit the three of them are, which I think is great.
Okay.
So she agrees, and one funny part about this is that when you see the agreement happen, she's just under the impression that Prince Edward will be going off to Spain for the next couple days, and that she just has to get through like dinner with the king and the queen, and then she can just chill in her room. Well, he cancels his plans and decides he wants to spend time with his fiance before their wedding.
Now, do you think that's because I kind of had the feeling that they hadn't really met before. Like they didn't have any kind of courting or anything.
No, I mean, it was an arranged marriage, and it was just something that they'd grown to accept. And I think they've met before.
But
not like really
watch that are arranged, they've known this all their life, and their families know each other, and they've been around each other.
Yeah, no,
and I didn't get that feeling.
No, me neither. It seems like they're strangers.
Yeah,
really.
That's what
I mean. They really are. They've got a little bit of an idea of how each other is, and I find that interesting because the king and the queen and Prince, they know enough of her to where they did notice a change in the personalities when the switch happened. But of course, why would they think that this was any other person than who they say they are? Because they didn't know that there were two girls that look exactly alike. But I did like how some of them kind of noticed that she seems different.
Something's off. Yeah,
something's off. So it kind of gives you, I like that little hint that they throw in there, that they kind of figure something is different or whatever. But
because in reality, they looked identical, but they were completely opposite in the way not the way they talked, really. Well, lingo wise, yes. Their voices, no, but the way they walked.
Yeah.
That was funny.
That scene where they try to walk each other's walks had me laughing.
Okay, me too. And I don't think I could ever learn to do the curtsy right.
I trip over my own feet.
Right.
Like my husband always talks about, I'm just so not graceful. Just like, it's just not good. But you do find out though that there's one person that they cannot fool, and that's Olivia. Yeah, and that's why I like.
Well, wasn't it because of that hand thing?
The hand thing, she kind of messed up at first. She burned the breakfast.
Kind of. She only got one part of it.
Well, no, really she got it right, but the first, like, she did the wrong hand. Like, they were supposed to lead with their right hand. I think she led with her left hand, and she was like, "Oh, wait," and then they got it right. But then she burned the breakfast.
I miss something? Did Stacy teach her how to do that?
She must have, and that must have been.
They don't show that or something.
Yeah, no. So that was covered under everything along with the walk and whatnot. But so Olivia figures them out, and she just goes with it, and it kind of helps Margaret along with,
because she likes her.
She does. They form a pretty good bond throughout
Yeah.
this whole thing. Yeah. And so like I said, not to give too much away, they go about their separate lives that they've switched out with, and you can see a transformation with the prince, but it's at a slower rate than I think you see how Kevin and the Duchess and Olivia all are interacting, because they move along quite well. They get into the groove, but the prince.
So the people understand there's a difference because the prince knew that he was going to marry this woman.
Yes.
The Duchess, and that was just how it was going to be. He never really got to know her, but Kevin and Tracy had been friends for a really, really long time.
They have, yes.
And he knew her very well. So
yep.
That's kind of hard to fool somebody when you know them so well.
Yeah, so that was kind of surprising that he just was like, oh, well, she's changing, and I'm not thinking anything of it. But then again,
he was, though.
there's
I
two
saw
people.
Parts. He was, but the prince wouldn't have thought of anything because he didn't really know Stacy as the Duchess. Yeah,
exactly. So I like how he kind of has a moment where he needs to be put in his place as far as his expectations of her, and she puts him in his place, and then you see his character kind of come out of his shell a little bit, and you see them using their royalty in a different way than what's been the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And which is, as the queen put it, it was refreshing. The king has his concerns, but then she's like, it's refreshing, it's and your son seems to like it, and the king's like, well, of course, that's what
always
matters.
Leave it up to the mom, right?
Someone's got to be like, hey, this is a good thing. But what I like about it is that Prince Edward comments a few times that she reminds him of his grandmother, who seemed to be, on just by conversation, more on the fiery side, more on the non-traditional royal side. So I think comparing those two made it easier for him to fall for Stacy, even though he doesn't realize it is Stacy.
Right.
And so they do a lot of good.
A lot more of that in the Christmas movies this year. And
Mm-hmm.
I still think it has to do with what we were talking about before with Prince Harry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's just kind of that breaking away of the traditional role, mm-hmm. so to say. Mm-hmm. There's a part where, they end up visiting an orphanage that, they normally just do a ball for and raise money, and then that's the end of it. Well, Stacy gets them into the idea of like, hey, should visit, and then it just kind of sets a whole new path for how they're going to deal with that orphanage from there on out. And they all just kind of go and they do their own things, and they all end up having fun, and then sparks fly between the two couples. And I mean,
one more than the other, don't you think? That was outwardly shown.
Yeah. And I was wondering how they would handle the approach with Kevin mm-hmm. and Stacy, mm-hmm. just because they did have that history there. They've seen each other go through the bad breakups. Right. They've seen, and then
I think that's why it took longer, don't you?
Yeah, because it was mentioned in the beginning of the movie, so kind of beginning of the movie, where Olivia's like, I wish you and Stacy, were a couple, and he's just like, she's not my type.
Right.
And then in comes Margaret, and it's a completely different personality, even though she's supposed to be Stacy. That her laid back attitude, just kind of, or laid back personality, I should say, just kind of was just out there, and he grew to love that. And
I wonder, there are so many movies that have that same I don't even know what I want to call it, but where there's there's white lies
Uh-huh.
that aren't supposed to be meant to hurt anybody.
Right.
Actually to help somebody, but it always backfires.
In this case, it was a rough
And
backfiring. Yeah.
but I was just watching just a regular movie the other night, and oh, you know what? It's not. It's the one that you said you couldn't get into.
Oh, the California Christmas?
Yeah, because if you actually continue to watch it, well, first of all, Michael Damian, do you know who he is? He's the writer and the producer, but did you even look him up?
I didn't know. I
Okay.
mean, like I said, I
When
tried
you
watching it.
when you were home with your kids, before they started going to school, did you ever watch soap operas?
No, I actually, what's funny is I actually watched soap operas in my like senior year of high school. I fell in love with Days of Our Lives and watched that, but
Because
that's
that was
about
the
it.
aura in your age group. Everybody was watching Days of Our Lives
Oh yeah.
and Young and Restless and General Hospital. And it was the three of those that was always in competition. I never watched soap operas myself until my fifth. Yeah, so I went 4 years to college, graduated, and then decided to go into another major. And but I'd gotten married. So I I was taking night classes
Oh,
and
I've been there,
online
done that.
classes, to
Hmm.
begin with. And well, you know what? When my husband passed away, I had Rochelle by myself, and I was still taking these classes. And some of them, I was going into the classes at night, and they were actually held
Oh
in
yeah.
high school.
That's where I did a couple of mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I took her with me because I
Yeah.
had nobody to watch her. She was an only child. My mom was far enough away. I couldn't like run her back and forth. My classes, I think, were
Right.
7 to 9.
Yeah, that
Right.
sounds about right.
Um, but I would take her, I talked to the teachers, and I took her into the room, and I put her at the back of the room, and she had her books and her dolls, and she had to be completely quiet.
There you go.
There is no way that my youngest would do that. No way.
Oh, mine neither.
There's
Never.
there's no way. But anyway, during that time, I also worked 2 jobs.
Mhm.
And one of them was taking care of a lady that had Alzheimer's
Okay.
um, during the day. And she had, her husband had passed away, and she had an only child. So her son, who was older than me, went to my church, and he actually heard that I was looking for a full-time job and came up and asked me if I had any experience in that, which I had none. I mean, I had my degree in psychology, but that can't help anybody with Alzheimer's.
Right. There's a whole lot more to it than
Right. And I
just your
certainly
school
didn't have
knowledge.
nursing, but I said no. The most I have is psychology, and I don't know that how that's going to help her. But he said, you know what, I just like your personality, so I think you'll take good care of her. So he hired me, and back then I think it was a lot of money. I got $600 a week cash.
That's really good money back
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
And so I had to be there. He left at 8 in the morning. But she caught the bus at like 8:15 or 8:16 or something like that.
Mhm.
So by the time, like, I just stood there with her at the bus stop.
Mhm.
And then by the time I got over to the lady's house, it was like 9 o'clock. So she was home alone for an hour.
Mhm.
By the time he hired me to take care of her, she was so far into the Alzheimer's that um, she was removing her clothes all the time.
Mhm.
She didn't know where anything was.
Yeah.
She tried to escape all the time.
That's a common thing with Alzheimer's. My
Well, I
grandmother did
knew
the
none
same
of
thing.
that, but I knew none of
Yeah.
that except that he told me she was in the late stages. And he did tell me that I would have to, he had to like put locks way up high so she couldn't reach them.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't know all the all the other things. But the one thing he said was, so every day at 11 o'clock, she watches Young and Restless. And that's when you feed her, because she'll sit there and eat then.
Consistency is key. Yeah.
Okay. Well, oh my gosh. So that meant I had to sit there. It's the first time in my life I'd ever seen a soap opera.
Did you get sucked in real well, did you?
I've watched it ever since.
I say,
And
yeah, like I don't want
I'm
to
gonna tell you what, it's, I mean, there was a couple of other ones I just left on for her. So I kind of watched them, but none of them were like, Young and Restless doesn't do anything out of the world. Like they don't have people come back from the dead.
Oh, okay.
Or
like on days when Marlena gets possessed by a demon.
Yeah, they don't.
I'm sorry, that was one of my favorite storylines.
But see, they don't have any fake stuff. Remember, I don't like fake stuff.
I know.
So they don't have any fake stuff. And if there's kids involved, they don't all of a sudden, they don't have a baby and then 2 months later it's a teenager. They don't do that.
Yeah, some of those fast track. You're like, wasn't he just like born 2 days ago?
I know. And that's just not believable to me. So anyway, she spooked me. She really spooked me out, because all of a sudden one day, like, whatever was going on in the TV, she got up and she went up to the screen and she starts yelling at that guy.
Yeah.
It was at Victor Newman. I'll never forget it.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, you stop that right now. You don't do that. And
yep.
I mean, I'm like, okay, nobody's in the house is going to know that I laughed, because there was nobody else.
Right.
But at first it startled me. And then it kind of scared me, because every single day after that, she would be yelling at them.
And that's normal. My grandmother did that. Like, she was getting after kids who she thought were in the middle of the road, and there was nobody there. But at the time it was scary. But when you think about it, it's like my little grandma's out there like wagging the finger, like, I'm like, oh boy, you can kind of giggle about it now.
So she got to go outside, because this lady didn't get to go outside.
Well,
however, she did escape from me once.
Yeah, we were not this was at night, and my grandfather just couldn't find her all of a sudden, and then there she was on the road, thinking that there were kids out there. So that's
but mine, I had to call the police to help me find her.
Oh no!
And she was naked.
Well, she really gave you the slip, didn't she?
I should have gotten fired. All I did was, so what happened was, she lost her bowel movement, and she told me she had to go to the bathroom. And at the time, she was able to, if you took her into the bathroom, she could sit down herself and go, and she would pull her pants back up. But I guess it was just real quickly when I started getting worse. But so she had went to the bathroom and she was in there a really long time. So I finally went to check on her. This is gross. I'm going to gross you guys out, but she had it in her hands and was playing with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh. And it was like under her fingernails and everything. And so like I had stood there and I'd cleaned her up, and I couldn't get her to go in the shower. She kept screaming about that. So it was like in the sink, and was, and it was just her hands, but still, oh my gosh, it smelled so bad. But it was all over the toilet. It was all over the floor. She wiped it on the walls. It was bad. Yeah. So when I got her all cleaned up and her clothes changed and all that, I took her out to the living room and sat her down, and I went back in the bathroom to clean all that. And she escaped. And I think it was because I took all that stuff that I cleaned with and I put it in a plastic bag and I put it outside the back door. And I think I forgot that lock up there.
Oh yeah. I mean, that stuff happens. And, and they know that you didn't have experience at that point. And my grandfather took care of my grandmother when she was, from the time she had Alzheimer's to the time she passed away at her own home. And with my grandfather just right upstairs. And there's still things after all those years that would still take him by surprise. It's a tough one to gauge, because it's just so different depending on who the person is and where they're at in their stages and whatnot. But those things happen.
Well, anyway, so I still watch Young and Restless, but I have it taped, obviously I'm working every day, so I couldn't watch it. And every day since I mean, I've always worked, so I've always recorded it.
Mhm.
And I kind of like that because I can watch it at my own leisure time,
There
and
you
then I
go.
can slide right through the commercials. So
There,
instead
yeah,
of an
there you go.
hour, it's a half hour. Okay,
Oh
anyway, so
no.
let's get back. Let's see, where were we? We were,
Well, we were talking
um,
about how the relationships had progressed.
yes,
And so, they all were enjoying very much where they were, but there was always that little bit of because you know that you're gonna have to switch back. And um, so after, because that contest was, that next morning. I think it was like only a day and a half that they did the switch, or a day or something along those lines. So um they're they get through their days, they're very much enjoying it, and both girls have to end, or what they think they have to end, the relationships that they're currently feeling, or like the feelings that they're feeling, because they both have to go back to their normal lives, which makes it a little bit more challenging for Stacy, considering there wasn't ever, I don't think, a thought beforehand of being in a relationship with Kevin, but you see
right,
a moment
right.
between Margaret and Kevin that you're like, oh, how are they going to address
Well,
this?
plus neither one of them knew that the other one had fallen in love with the person they were with.
Exactly. And it wasn't until after they switched back and we're having a discussion, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're in love with him, I'm in love with him. And
Which was kind of cool for them, but
yeah,
yet complicated.
very complicated, because they had to go back to normal lives. I mean, you can't have the Duchess in there cooking or baking, she doesn't know how to bake. So yeah,
And they didn't show too much of that after the couple times that she tried to make stuff there.
yes,
That was the other thing. I think it concentrated more on Stacy and the Duke
yeah, yeah, they did a lot with those two. And
more than
um
they did with Kevin and the lady.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know why that is, because I feel like that story
Because
is
she
just
couldn't
as
bake,
important.
probably. 'Cause she
Well,
couldn't
yeah,
bake.
yeah, but I
Because
mean, like,
their only role there was to practice baking.
that's true, that's true. And then you're talking about a king here. But so they swap back, and they end up, Stacy and Kevin go off to the baking competition and do their 5 hours of baking. And what you before all that happens, so you find out that they actually get busted by they get found out by the driver, by a Prince Edward's driver, and
He
he
was
snaps
suspicious a
pictures.
lot.
He was one of those ones who was like, something's going on, and but he couldn't figure it out. So he actually snapped pictures of them together in the same room and took it to the queen. And so the
King,
queen,
King.
oh well, he tried
Yeah,
to get the
he
king, and the queen's
tried.
like,
Boy, she wasn't
yeah,
letting him by. Do you think
yeah.
she had a suspicion, maybe?
When they first had breakfast together, maybe. I'm not quite sure on that one, but I do think that Stacy playing the Duchess had a little bit of an impact or an influence on how the queen reacted to that driver, Frank, only wanting to see the king. She's like, whatever you want to discuss, you can discuss in front of me. And he's like, no, I insist.
I
And she's
get
like, yeah, no.
that. I
Yeah.
got that, but I just wondered if she herself didn't suspect too, and because they didn't show her very much, but
No.
because she was almost willing to keep that secret.
Yeah, when she's looking through the pictures, I didn't even realize that the king was in on it until you see breakfast the next day, where Margaret is back, and she's like, well, I'm really not feeling too good, and I'm going to need you and Margaret to go pass out the medals for the winners of the baking competition. And she, Margaret tries coming up with excuses, and they're like, oh, no, 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 no. And then the king was even like, oh, I'm sure the staff has the wedding plans, and you kind of see him give the queen a look, and you're like, she probably did say something to him.
So
That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, and I wish I had more information about the king and the queen, because they really loved each other.
Yeah, you can tell they've got a
They
very
had a
good
good
relationship. Yes.
Yeah, and supportive of whatever,
Yeah, it
which
seemed
is
like,
unusual in the royal family.
yeah, and I feel like they probably would have been okay with, the him marrying Margaret, but I think they both realized that Stacy was the better match. So they end up, Prince Edward and Margaret end up going to that baking competition. But that's after Margaret comes clean to Prince Edward. You know, she needs air, so they're sitting on that bench, and you don't see her come out and say, hey, you know, I'm not, you know, this has been Stacy the last day, and you've been hanging with her, and da da da. You just see him say, we need to get to, is it Wembley Studios or wherever? They're like, you need to get here ASAP. And they show up, and, you know, he's not surprised by seeing Stacy there. So I think, you know, she had come clean to him, but then you see them reunited or whatever. And Stacy is like, oh my gosh, he knows.
Wait a minute.
Okay. Did I lose you?
Yeah, because I remember that Lady Margaret did tell him that love wasn't part of the agreement, that, you know, that medal.
Right. Yeah.
And then she did tell him about the whole thing.
Okay, maybe I missed that part, but
Yeah.
I do know that they were.
She did tell him, and so he went with her to do
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So you see, you find out that Stacy and Kevin win, and they're going to get their medals presented to him, and Stacy's just like, I don't need a medal ceremony. She's trying to get out of there. But the person I think who's more shocked than anybody is Kevin, because he's like,
right. So actually, Kevin didn't know, and Stacy didn't know. She hadn't told him yet. She was going to do it after they got back.
Yeah, they were talking about discussing that on the plane.
Right.
Yeah, on the plane.
So those two were the shocked ones. The other two had talked it out, and they were both fine with what they were going to do.
Exactly. So,
which was great.
Yes. So it ends up where you find out that, you know,
I can't tell the ending.
Yeah, no. So, but like, you know, Kevin and Margaret, you know, they're talking, and, you know, the prince and Stacy are off talking, and they all decide on what the best course of action should be, I guess. That's a good way to end it.
Okay.
Maybe.
And you'll just have to see what happens after that.
Yes, you have to watch to see what happens, because it's a great movie.
Now, the part that I did not catch was the lady, and I don't know if it was her brother or who it was, that had won the baking contest the year before.
Oh yeah, her and her sous chef. Yeah.
Who was the guy she was with?
I think it's her the grumpy lady, right? I think it's just a sous chef, like her partner in
grumpy
crime.
Lady. I thought she was still just a little bit older than them. She was just a witch.
Yeah, she seemed like they went to like the culinary school together, but they obviously don't like each other. And of course, as we find out, she's shady.
I mean, like the man that was her assistant.
Oh, are we talking?
Is that her brother?
No.
So the lady that cut the cord, that tried to stop her from winning. I'm talking about her.
Yeah, I didn't get, no, that's what I thought you were talking about. I didn't get brother vibe from her. I think he was just like her sous chef, like Kevin is to, like, you know, the co-baker or whatever you want to call him.
Okay. But I didn't understand why she was against her to begin with.
I think she viewed her as competition. Because you can see that jealousy there when that reporter stopped who they thought was Stacy.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
and she was the reigning
when
winner.
I think of competition, I don't think of cheating and being hateful. I just think of working harder.
Right.
So which I was wondering if there wasn't something, because that's not a big deal of the movie. You know, it's like right at the beginning where she runs into her or something and says, whatever. I don't remember what she said. And then
she was like, I won last year, and kind of like making it known that she was the one to beat.
Yeah. I mean, it was short.
Yeah. Well, and if you
didn't
remember
see her again until she cut the cord.
Right. And if you remember though, on like when they're testing, you know, tasting the cakes and whatnot, because they didn't have the blender, they had to puree the berries by hand. The judges make notice that it's not as smooth or as
What
well
they
blended as it
expected
needed to
it
be.
to be.
Yeah, so it kind of makes you think, okay, did she really get her? Because you don't always see the outcome that you expect. But in this situation, you know, it's different.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think she was just threatened by her that maybe she was a better baker, in which it ended up being the case. But
Okay, so I have a question for you.
yes,
A couple of them. First of all, I think, I don't know, you said you didn't finish watching the one I did a couple nights ago, because
I haven't listened fully to it yet. The Princess for Christmas.
so we've done like 4 princess movies.
Yeah,
Well, that's what's like going on all the time. But
I know.
so far, which one do you like the best?
I like the Princess Switch.
Okay.
100%. That's top of my list. It's good.
Okay. So, would you give it a 5-star?
I'm giving it a 4, just because there's a lot of princess movies. I mean, it
really
stands
is.
out, but it's also in a genre that's just saturated right now, and there wasn't anything that really made it stand out more than the others. I just think it probably is better written, and I think the acting was really good in it, whereas the other ones not as much. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it.
I just remembered why we started talking about soap operas.
You were talking,
Michael Damian, who is
yeah.
the writer and the director or producer of this movie, he was a main character in Young and Restless,
Oh, okay.
and
That's
he
what
went off the show to start producing.
Oh, there we go. And that's the director of the movie you were
And
watching.
yeah,
You said,
no,
right?
of
Yeah.
this movie.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Or was it the one I just did? It could have been just the one
I think it's the one
did.
you just did, because this one is Mike Rohl, Rohl, is who directed this one. So
okay.
Michael did, and that was that the A Princess for Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah, that had
There's so many
Roger Moore in it.
princesses, I can't believe.
I know.
Okay,
I
so
know.
this was this had to do with the princess too, because it was the Duke of Castleberry Hall.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, so Michael Damian was the producer and the director, and
Okay, yeah.
and one of the writers.
Oh, so he had his hands
So
all over the place.
So as soon as I saw that, I mean, he was a tremendous actor.
Very nice.
But that's the only thing I ever saw him act in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's one I didn't watch. I just stuck with
It's
the Days of Our Lives and
amazing.
Passions before they got really weird.
It's amazing how many actors and actresses go into film directing and producing.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's because it's, well, I would think the producer would have to spend as much time on the set, just
more
not
control.
But they must make more money.
That's possible. But I mean, look at John Krasinski. He played in The Office as Jim for all those years, and now he like A Quiet Place. Fantastic movies.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I mean, he's a good actor, but his directing chops are really good.
Yeah.
So maybe that's, maybe they find out that they enjoy it better. I don't know.
I just have seen a lot of, well, like Will Smith.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he still acts, but he also produces and writes, and he does all of them good.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my say. Just, I'm sure not everybody likes him, but I think they have a good family. They've brought their kids up well. They've never had any drama. If you think about it, like they're not in the tabloids, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't follow them much. I mean, I liked him on
There's
Fresh
nothing
Prince.
to follow because there's nothing on.
No, yeah.
I mean, he produces movies and I go to
Mhm.
them and he's in movies and we watch him
Yeah.
and he's really good. But I'm just saying, and his wife is a model.
Jada Pinkett Smith. She's so adorable.
Wait a minute, Jada's his daughter.
No, that's his wife. His daughter is
Wait a minute, Jaden
Willow.
is his son.
Oh yeah, and then Willow is the daughter, I think.
Yeah.
But Jada is the wife.
Jada's his wife, and she's gorgeous. But I mean, and he's really handsome, and their kids are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, but see, he made Karate Kid 2.
Oh yeah.
And his son played Karate.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And I thought that was actually better than the original Karate Kid.
See, I'm part. I love the original Karate Kid, but
I love it too.
But I have a musical interest in that one anyway, so I'm always gonna love it just because my favorite singer sings a song for that movie. So I can't.
Are you talking about Eye of the Tiger?
No, I am talking about Glory of Love by Peter Cetera, who is a former lead singer of Chicago.
Okay.
He's my main dude. I love that man.
Hey, Ron.
I'd say don't tell my husband, but he jokes about it all the time. He's like, anytime you get mad at me, you'll just leave me for Peter Cetera. And I'm like, you're right. No.
Every time my husband goes out of town, if he does call, he doesn't usually call because he goes to bed early. But if he does call and I don't answer because I didn't hear it or something, and I call him back, he'll go, what'd you have to do? Tell Rafu something? Make an excuse. And I'm like, what? Raphael. I don't know why he uses that name.
We mess with
my
husband. Yeah, we mess with Ron all the time. Like my mom and I, like when, I had nerves about him leaving, but then she was always like, party at Melinda's house. And we literally just joke about having, she's like, I'm like, man, I'm having to get the boyfriend out of here because he's gonna be here in a couple hours. And he's just like, gosh, he just accepts the jokes now. But it's like anybody who doesn't know us is probably just like really weird about it.
I did that on Steve tonight, but I was so serious. I can be serious. Like he laughs when he says that stuff. Mm-hmm. But he had called me to see if I wanted something to eat before we went on. He said, you got to be hungry. And I said, I kind of am, but I said, why? What are you doing? And he said, oh, okay. He gave me a choice of like 8 places he was going to be going by on the way home. So I told him what I wanted. And then he's got his own key for here. So I said, so I'm going to be watching this movie. So I probably won't hear you. So use your key. And he said, okay, well, I'll just text you and say I'm coming in so I don't scare you. And I'm like, okay. I mean, like,
well, who else is going to be coming in the back door? It's locked.
And let me tell you, the way that it's locked and the big metal door it is, nobody can break in. So I'm not afraid of anybody coming in that back door.
Right.
That you can maybe startle me if I'm open and somebody comes in the front door and surprises me in the back room, but the back door doesn't. Anyway, so I pretended, because I could hear him unlocking the door. So like I ran out of the office and I went back into the furnace room. And then like when he started walking down the hall, I like interjected, and he kind of got startled and he goes, what are you doing? And I said, nothing. And he's like, is there somebody here? I'm like, why would you even say something like that? He totally started getting suspicious. But then he went, Melinda's here, isn't she? I should have brought her something.
She's giving me number protection, like, dude, where's my food?
I know. Yeah. It would have been fun if we had done that.
Oh my god.
Then I went, gee, you don't even really think that I would ever have anybody, do you? And he said, no, I don't.
That's how Ron and I are. Like, I tease about, having a boyfriend and he teases about whatever. I was like, dude, I said, I don't have time for another person in my life. I said, I put up with your bullshit. I said, I don't need anybody else's. I said, I don't have time for that crap. But he always, sometimes he gets like, really? I'm like, dude, I'm totally joking.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, when the day comes that if Steve happens to go before I go, I would never remarry again.
Oh yeah.
And it's nothing to do with I'm against marriage. It's to do with once your kids get out of the home, and I know yours are still young, so you got a ways to go, but you know,
Yes, they do.
my last one's going to be, well, not totally gone, but you know, next year he'll be all year staying at the dorm and
Oh yeah.
maybe home, you know, once a weekend a month, maybe.
Mhm.
But so that'll be hard because
Mhm.
that's the baby. It was hard for my first. My second, I was okay. My
Mhm.
third, and the baby's going to be completely hard when he's gone all the time.
Yeah.
But I kind of got the, you know, his freshman year, he was gone. Even though he was just over at ICC, he still had to live in the dorms because of basketball.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't get to see it. And then there was pandemic, so you couldn't go. No, we as parents couldn't go to the dorms anyway.
Yeah.
And they had security at the gate, so nobody else could go in. So like they couldn't have friends come over or anything like that.
We're really on lockdown.
Yeah, they were. I mean, the gym was right there on the property, so they could walk across the parking lot to the gym for practice, but that's all they could go. And each one of the dorm houses had a laundry room, so there was just no place they could go, you know,
Yeah.
just right there. But still, he was away from home.
Yeah.
So you know, we did FaceTiming once in a while, which that's better than nothing, I guess. But anyway, during that time, Steve was also out of town for 3 months.
Wow.
And so I was by myself, and I got used to everything being where it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
The dog got on a permanent schedule, so she wasn't waking me up in the middle of the night to take her out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to get up in the middle of the night and go lock doors and shut off lights that everybody left on. I mean, there was
order in your life.
I could name so many things that I don't think they realize I do, which I wasn't used to with my first husband, because he took care of all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of my men at home, my son and my husband, worry about locking doors or shutting off lights.
That sounds about like it
or
is here.
shutting cabinet doors or shutting drawers.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes I find the milk sitting out in the middle of the night that's already turning warm, because they each have a bowl of cereal sometime before they go to bed, but they're tired, so they must like forget to even put it back in. So there's all those things that I go around picking up and putting, rather than to say something to them and all that, I just do it. And that's what happens to me in the morning when I'm trying to get to work. I've got to feed the dog, then I got to give her time to have to go to the bathroom so I can take her out. And then I'm unloading the dishwasher from the night before. They've got, because of course they wouldn't find the time to do it, so their dirty dishes are in the sink. And so I'm doing that. And I'm just like,
a lot.
oh, I remember 3 months of not having to do all that. So if he goes before me, and obviously, well, hopefully that means that Ryan by then will be married, not at college. I would be by myself.
Yeah, some people are okay with that.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like I would miss him and all that kind of stuff, but I wouldn't go through the whole dating process again and getting used to somebody else's way of living and not
Right.
being the same as yours and all that
Right.
kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, if you look at the dating situations in this day and age, even I'm just like, I, I don't get it. I don't think I would have the mental want or capacity to even try to date in
I
today's
know.
society. I'm
I
just like, you know
know.
what?
What is
It's
that?
insane. Like this whole swiping left or right or whatever. Just like, I remember like just meeting someone while you were out or or through a friend as opposed to like getting on an app, but that's what it is these days and you just don't know who you're. I mean, there's always a question on who you're coming in contact with, but it just seems like with the apps these days, it just seems like it brings out everyone from the woodworks, and I don't blame you. And
Yeah.
I've never really thought about that myself, but after my dad divorced, he didn't get remarried until for like a good amount of years because he just went ahead and finished raising us kids and then got into it. And even then it was rough. It's like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't blame you
So
though.
I don't know. You know what? I wasn't, I'm not a depressive person, so I wasn't depressed. Um, I didn't have anybody to talk to, and I'm a talker, so that was kind of hard.
Yeah, I can see where that would
Um,
be difficult. Yeah.
yeah, because I'm a talker. So that was kind of hard. And because I was going through my cancer treatments and COVID also at the same
Hmm.
time, I really didn't feel well enough to talk, even if I did have somebody to talk to, but nobody
Right.
could come over. I mean, I could talk on the phone, but I didn't
Right.
have the strength, and I didn't feel like it. So it was like a check-in thing once in a while. Where was I going to go with that though? I think the only thing that I missed there was that there was at least somebody in the house if I was to fall and hurt myself.
Hmm.
That part scared me.
Yeah, that can be anxiety inducing.
So
I completely understand that.
I didn't have anxiety over it.
Or like just make you, I mean, being scared. Like I totally get that.
That was the only time I thought, because you'd have to understand how weak I was, but I couldn't even get out of bed and stand up. I
Mm.
had to roll out of bed and I had to crawl on my hands and knees to go to the restroom or to go to the kitchen to get me something to eat.
Yeah, it's too
Be-
bad that you couldn't have had like a home health nurse there, but with COVID,
I had COVID.
yeah, that's just,
I
yeah,
couldn't have anybody. And I think
yeah.
I told you the lady next door checked on me like 2 or 3 times a day with
Right.
text, but then that one time she couldn't get a hold of me through text, so she called the police. That was terrifying.
I did that once with my neighbor. She's since passed away, but she was older and usually she was out very early in the morning or to like later morning, especially in the summer, because before it got hot and she's doing yard work and whatnot. Well, like 3 days had gone by and I'm like, I haven't seen her. So we're trying to get my friend and I were trying to get a hold of her daughter and couldn't get a hold of her. So we called the cops to do a well check because we were like beating on her door and she was not answering front and back. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
man,
that's scary.
she was so mad. She was
You
watching
mad?
her NASCAR. And I guess I found out from her daughter that when NASCAR is on, her house could be on fire. She's not leaving. Like she was a
Oh my God.
diehard NASCAR fan. So she was not answering the door for anybody. But I mean, the police just wouldn't give up, So, and that's why. And
Wow.
I got a real tongue lashing the next day when she's like, I don't answer for anybody when I watch my NASCAR. I'm really sorry. But like literally, I didn't want this little lady in there. Like I thought something was wrong. And it ended up what led to her end up passing is she did fall, broke her hip. But she, I guess, is like this older Italian lady, very hard nosed and never goes to the doctor. So she tried to just heal and write it out on her own. Did not work out well for her because then she ended up in the hospital. And just kind of after that, she ended up passing away, like probably 4 months after that. And she came back home, but just, yeah. So, like, I've been in those situations, like, where no one was answering. I was like, well, we got to make sure she's okay. And it was NASCAR.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, So the girl that called for me, I so I wasn't mad. Okay. I was the pounding real hard on my window, which was right next to the bed by the police officers, and yelling my name out startled me.
Well, yeah, you're not feeling well, so that's
No, I
probably
was
just not
asleep.
good for your
I was in a real deep sleep, and I wasn't sleeping during all that time very well. I was light sleeping. Well, this time I had happened to be in a deep sleep. So and then the window being right next to the bed, I had moved everything around for the purposes of her being able to go to my window. Okay. And I would pull it up a little, about this far up, so I had fresh air. So I rearranged the bedroom right away when I first got COVID and knew I was going to have to stay home. And I'm like, okay. So I had rearranged everything. So the bed was like right up next to the window. So I'm finding this deep sleep. So, they were doing this boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And I jumped, and I didn't know, I was looking around, and then they were yelling out my name, and I'm like, who is it? Who is it? And they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? And then they're like, open the curtains, open the curtains. And they weren't saying it nice. And so when I opened the curtains, she was standing behind them. She's like, Christy, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. And I said, it's okay. It just scared me.
Yeah, it's like I was sleeping, then all of a sudden, bam, bam, bam.
She
jumped right out of
like,
bed.
I didn't know what to do. I texted you, I called you, I came to the doorbell. So bless her heart. Bless her heart.
It's good to have people in your life like that who are concerned enough to get a hold of the authorities when you're in a super deep sleep and not answering your phone.
I did, I'll never do it again because she's just not that kind of a person. But like the next day, when she called to check on me, I answered the phone and I said, oh, it's you. Good thing I answered the phone. And she said, I'm so sorry about that. I really am. She said, I couldn't quit thinking about that last night, of how scared you must have been. And that was just stupid of me. And I'm like, it was not stupid of you.
No,
and
very much appreciated. Just don't do it again.
I know, right?
Like, put the phone down. Popo doesn't need to come. I'm right here. I'm good.
Well, I said, could you put gloves and a mask on? And she knows my code. So just use my code, and you could just check in and yell out, Christy, are you okay?
Yeah, there you go. Come figure it. That's funny.
But see, the problem was she had like a newborn. She had a 6-week-old baby.
Oh, yeah.
And then 3 other kids that were under 5 at home. And so she couldn't like come in and stay and all that. I mean, there wasn't one old enough to watch another one, even, let alone 4 of them.
No kidding. Itty bitties.
Anyway, well, I think we told enough plus.
Yeah, I know.
So next, let's see. Oh, what do we think was the biggest life struggle?
I think what I noticed more than anything was the life struggle of just royalty in general, of having all these insane expectations put on them and feeling like they couldn't do anything but to live up to them. That right there is a lot. So this
one probably wasn't one of our most movies, or one of our movies with the most struggles in it.
Yeah, I mean, they're there, but you got to really look and understand.
Pretty light, light, something you can take care of easily. So feel good movie. I guess I would go 4.5 on it.
Yeah.
And absolutely, definitely recommend it to everybody.
Yes, check it out. See how it ends and all that.
So if somebody wants to ask questions, you want to give your information where somebody can get a hold of you.
Yeah, I am on Instagram under Mama Weigel, or you can search my name, Melinda Weigel, and it'll come right up. And I'm better about getting on there. I'm watching the stuff, and I'll sometimes try to remember to like it, but I'm on there a little bit more often. But the last 2 weeks I've been, like I said, kind of MIA
Right.
because
She was MIA on me.
yeah, because life
Happens.
hit me like a Mack truck. But like I said, I made it through and I'm feeling good, and I'm back. So yeah, you can get a hold of me on there.
Okay. I'm going to make you promise in front of everybody that if you go MIA again, that you have somebody, one of the kids or somebody contact me and let me know that you're okay.
Yes,
Because
I will do
if
that.
you notice, I did not bother you.
Yeah.
But it was hard for me not to know if you were okay or not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, in every situation, I end up being okay. But when, because I did struggle that night before that my husband got back, which was Tuesday night.
That's when you
but
didn't come back on the phone. Yeah.
yeah, so I so I just knew sometimes
You
I
just
have to close
abandoned
myself
me, you
off.
guys. You're supposed to be on.
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, but I just, I have to take any potential stressors out of like my current situation,
Right.
and just kind of focus on my breathing and making sure that my kids are taken care of while simultaneously trying not to freak out. So
I
yes,
bet you were laying down with Jennifer, because your last thing to me was, I'm going to get the kids settled and in bed.
Yeah.
And then I'll be on. And then
Yeah.
I just never heard from you again.
Yeah, it was
For
just
2
kind of one of those
days.
things that
For
I
2
know. Well,
days.
it snuck up on me, and for me, like I can feel when my panic attacks are coming on. So while I didn't have a full-fledged one, I was able to take my backup meds and do my breathing, and did a little bit of, like, I'll throw comedy on. I think I've talked to you about this before. I just need something to take my brain off of what is currently freaking me out, whether it just be life in general or the fact that feel like I'm about to have a panic attack. So I threw on some Bert Kreischer and fell asleep. And usually the day after having a situation like that, you won't see me on social media much. You won't hear from me much, just because I'm focusing on keeping myself in a better frame of mind to not think about the night before. And if I get too stressed, I kind of get flustered. So it's a work in progress, but
You did good.
Yeah, I think I did. I'm viewing it as a win, even though, I did have that one rough night, but it's been way worse.
You're like talking around the promise in public.
Oh yeah, no. I will have Ella get a hold of you.
Thank you.
Because the other two, if they get your number, you'll be getting like emojis at like midnight, sneaking on their phones when they're supposed to be in bed, or they'll be sending you YouTube videos.
I put the volume down anyway, so
yeah, there you go. Oh my gosh.
No, but anyway, so you can get a hold of me on Instagram under Struggle Winner or my name, Christy Collier. You can watch our podcast on YouTube now. Just so you guys know, when you see us on YouTube, I'm going to have a picture of the movie that we described. Now, we're not going to always do movies. This is going to end December 23rd. So after that, then it'll just be our regular picture.
Back to regular programming.
Yeah. But until then, it will look like you're going to be watching the movie. So you're not, but if you read the description like you're supposed to, it gives you every single way that you can watch the movie, who the producer, the director, the actors, and a summary of the movie in it. So, and also in that part, I will put how to get a hold of Melinda and how to get a hold of me. Yeah. I will have our YouTube channel. So you guys make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, because as soon as we get enough subscribers, I will have our own very own name of YouTube.Life Struggles. I cannot get that until we have a certain amount of subscribers. So
and make sure you turn on your notifications,
and then
so that you know when we post new stuff.
That's right. But as far as Spotify goes, that, you can always just go to Life Struggles and go back and watch all the ones and whatever. So that's fine.
Yeah, so they're gonna see a picture of the movie, but they're gonna see us, not the
Except
movie.
it on
To see us.
on right on YouTube,
Yeah.
but on
Yes,
Spotify and
fine.
all the other platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, all the other ones, Twitter, those will come up with just the picture of life struggles. And and then you don't get to watch us talking, you'll just hear us.
Yeah.
So, but please like and share those too. So
Yes, please.
all right. We will talk to you later. Remember that we love you all. And how many more days? We have 7 days until Christmas,
Yeah.
or 7
Week
more
from
days.
today.
Or wait,
It's Saturday, so it's a week from today is actually Christmas.
right. So we're only gonna have about 3 more movies to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see what we're gonna do next time. We're not gonna tell you. And you guys have a wonderful Christmas in case you don't
Yes.
watch us again, but make sure you do anyway.
Yes.
Don't you think? They
I think
should.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We're likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.